Welcome to 52 Authors, 52 Weeks, Season 3. I'm Dr. Lisa L. Campbell, the Growth Motivator. Each week, I sit down with a different author to explore what lies behind the pages. Growth, purpose, finding your voice. Enjoy today's episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another amazing episode of 52 Authors, 52 Weeks. Today, I am joined by Katrina R. McGhee, who is the author of, I got to turn it around so I can read the whole thing, A Practical Guide, Artificial Intelligence for Health Information Management, a practical guide for professionals who protect data. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Dr. Campbell. I appreciate you having me. I'm excited to be here.
Love it. And I'm excited that you're here because we're in I would say the same industry, even though, we both have similar credentials, but I am in transition, if you will, in terms of what I do in the space, because just like artificial intelligence, I'm evolving.
Correct.
So, why don't you tell our listening, viewing audience a little bit about you and your background, and then we'll get into some aspects of the book, but we don't want to tell them everything that's in the book because they need to get their own copy.
Okay. Well, I started many, many years ago working for Blue Cross Blue Shield of Alabama. I've always wanted to be in the healthcare field, the healthcare space. Initially, I wanted to be a nurse, surprisingly. But back during those years, and I'm not going to even date myself right now, my children were small. So it was a little difficult to maneuver in that space. And so one day I was just sitting at my desk working. And at this time, I think I had left Blue Cross and I was at University of Alabama Health Services Foundation. Like, what do you want to do, Katrina? What can you do to offset being a nurse if you can't do that? And I found the Health Information Technology program at Wallace State Community College, which is in Hansfield, Alabama. And I went through that program and I graduated with my associate's degree first in 2009. So fast forward 2 years later, I procrastinated with taking the RHIT, which is the Registered Health Information Technician certification or credentials. I took it in 2011 and I passed on the first attempt. And so at that time, I think at this point, I was working I got my first job and I was a CDI because before then, I was more or less in the business office in a SNF. But I became a clinical documentation improvement specialist for a private sector hospital in Birmingham. And it was so interesting. I mean, never had really coded before, but through the program, I went through that. So upon leaving that program or leaving that hospital, I started working for the VA, the Department of Veteran Affairs in Birmingham. And I got in the door as an inpatient coder. And so what happened there is there's this program, and this is how I got my big my big move that was called the Technical Career Field Health Information Management Intern. So we call it for short TCF HIM intern program. And this is the program where you go through the whole entire processes of being a HIM chief or HIM manager. And I went through all of that. It was a 2-year program. Mind you, I only had my associate's degree and an RHIT. So the criteria was an associate's in HIM or a bachelor's or your RHIT or RHIA. So initially I wasn't selected. So a good friend of mine, we became very good friends. She was a veteran. She was selected. And so then maybe a fast forward a few weeks, my preceptor, which was my boss at the time, she came to me and asked me if I still wanted to be in that program. And I was like, yes. She said, I know you have small children. You'll have to sign an MOU, which is a memorandum of understanding, that you would probably have to move or relocate. I did not hesitate because I knew what the end was. Like they said, beginning with the end in mind. I already knew what that could lead to. So I went ahead and went through the TCL program, became a HIM chief at the VA, 2 different facilities, and then that's when I migrated over to health informatics. So during all this time, I'm still having a associate's degree and going working through these jobs and positions, and I became a health informatics specialist. And so after that, I just got my bachelor's in HIM in 2023. Um, my mentor, Dr. Agnew, she was the one that kept pushing me every time. She was like, "Katrina, when you gonna get your bachelor's?" Got the bachelor's. Guess what she came back around and said, "Katrina, when you gonna get your master's?" So I graduated with my master's of science in health informatics in 2025, last year, which was May. And here I am. And within this time frame, um, while I started school, I enrolled myself into the AI program too, right? So this is through Alicia Little, the queen of AI. And it was so crazy because I was like, what did I just do? So I'm in school. And then I was like, okay, hold on, Katrina, you gotta slow down. And I had to pause AI for a while to finish school, picked it back up last year. And but well, in 2024 I picked it back up because I had to get my certification. So I completed the capstone, went through all of that process, certified, got back to school and program again, and then graduated. After graduation, it was like take a mental break. Then after that is when I went all in with AI, and I have been nonstop with AI ever since.
I love it. And funny thing, so when you mentioned Dr. Agnew, I can the way you said how she was in your ear, I can hear her.
Yes.
I can hear her saying that to you. So that's good that she was able to encourage you to keep
Yes.
going. Because as you get older, it gets a little more difficult
Yeah.
to be in school. There's a running joke that I'm not ever going back to school, and just because there are so many things you can do now without
Yes.
necessarily going to school,
Correct.
and the way my student loans are set up, yeah,
Let's not even talk about
yeah, unless
that.
somebody is giving it to me for free 99,
Yeah.
I won't be
Well, so
interested.
she's already in my ear trainer, sending me stuff. You gonna go for your PhD? You gonna get your doctorate? I'm like, look, is it free? And that's when she was like, no, I don't know about that. So she's at it again. And I'm like, okay, Dr.
Mm.
Agnew, slow down. But if it's free, if I can get one that's fully funded, I'm all in. But yeah, she's that one that's been giving me that push since I met her in 2010.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
I got about a decade or so on Dr. Jasmine. So let me just I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to pull rank and tell you definitely find something a way to get it paid for so that you don't
Yeah.
have that debt.
Yes.
Because people always ask me, why did you get your PhD? I started my PhD in 2004. And really my why was because I was working at a university and I
Mhm.
was like, hey, HR lady, how can I make more money? And she's like, oh, you got to get a second master's degree or get a PhD. So I was like, okay, bet. Right. I didn't even stay at that school. Yeah,
Wow.
long after that. So do I regret it? No. But as a woman who's in her 50s, I
Right.
would much rather not have this debt.
Correct.
However, it is what it is at this point.
Right. Right.
So thank you so much for telling me about your background. So now let's talk about um, how you decided that you needed to write this book.
So most of the AI conversations that I was always hearing, it was either generic, general, or IT, or just anything that was not designed for HIM. You hear it in healthcare and all of that. So they were so overly technical, more broad and centered on like the clinical decision making. It had nothing to do with HIM. And I'm just kind of like, okay. And I'm just sitting here thinking and I'm watching, and I've even spoken to some colleagues and asking questions like, hey, what do you know about AI? Have they incorporated that in the department? Things like that. And everybody's kind of like, no. And then, of course, on the coding aspect, a lot of them feel that, hey, AI is going to take my job, and that's so far from the truth. So, it's kind of one of those situations where HIM is being asked to just adapt and change. But being the gatekeepers of the medical record, We're the administrator of record, and we don't have a voice in some of the decisions that are being made. And so I started doing a little research for AI with HIM. I could not find anything. The most I would find are articles or posts. And so I just started digging a little deeper because, all honesty, when I got into AI, my goal was to pivot from HIM. I was like, I want to get away, but it was like something just kept pulling me back, pulling me back, pulling me back. So the more I researched, the more I didn't find anything. I could not find a single book. And I used that as an opportunity. And I was like, oh, okay, there is not a book. Let me do my research and let's put this book out here because people need to be aware. They don't need to be afraid. And so just looking for that comprehensive, practical privacy first guide. We talk about privacy in more ethical, written specifically for the HIM professionals. And it just was it didn't exist. It was nowhere around. So just seeing the blog posts and all the different articles, I was like, okay, let me look at this. Let me just take this into account. And so I started working on the book last year. And of course, I was asking individuals questions, just trying to understand. So I know the frustration of just kind of sitting there and in meetings or not in meetings and not being involved. Even right now with the transition of the medical record system from and for the VA, they're migrating to Oracle Cerner. Um, Again, HIM didn't have a voice. So those are the type of things that, I wanted to look at, and I wanted them to understand that AI may transform into your HIM department, but you kind of need to have that knowledge and that understanding of how to handle that.
I love that. And there's a couple of things to unpack here. And also, I have some thoughts for you, which everybody that's listening to this episode don't need to hear about because they don't need to be all in your business. But my wheels are always turning about how to help others grow, which is why I'm the growth motivator.
Mhm.
But you talked about how some professionals feel like, oh, the technology is going to take our job. As a person who plays around with artificial intelligence on a regular basis, who has been a director of departments where it was used 10, 20 years ago,
Mhm.
mm-mm. It's complementing the work that we do. It is going to change how we do the work. And I want to say here and now, for those who may be listening who operate in that space, are you going or will you be left behind? Because we're going to be elbow to elbow with the software, and you just have to learn how to embrace it and allow it to help elevate your role. And it's all
Correct.
about changing the mindset.
Correct. Correct.
So you went from 2 decades of being a medical coder to being a chief. And I always wondered how one became a chief of HIM at the VA, but we're not going to talk about
That's
that
how.
right now. But I always wondered
That's
that.
how the program. It was the TCF program, pretty
Yeah.
much.
And I
Yeah.
never knew that that existed. So I think that's good for younger professionals to kind
Mhm.
of hear about that. But let's talk about some aspects of the book.
Mhm.
And I know why you wrote the book, but let's actually get into some nuances about the book. So, one of the things you talk about is, hey, everybody, you're not behind, right? You are where you're supposed to be.
Mhm.
But talk about some of the common fears and misconceptions.
So again, the misconceptions of AI is going to take my job. We're just being thrown a tool. We don't know how to utilize the tool. And one of the things I feel like that's happening too is the governance around the tool. So if they take the time to learn the tools, you don't have to be a technical expert. You just need to understand AI, how it works, where it fits in your professional responsibility. You know, um, Evaluate the tools, ask questions. Set the boundaries, and you have to advocate as the gatekeepers of the records. We have to advocate for responsible use as well. So they just need to recognize that AI is a tool. It's not a replacement for professional judgment because at the end of the day, um, it has to be driven by the human. It's always going to have to be a human factor, either way it goes. They can't just turn AI loose and say, go code these records. So even if they utilize AI as the tool to help and it may speed up the process, but they still have to do their own due diligence and review the records, review the coding. Because AI has already been used in coding, the computer assisted coding, for example. Um, so you can, as a human, can spot things that may not even make sense. It may be wrong. So AI is not 100% correct. You have to go behind AI in anything you do. It doesn't matter what you're working on when it comes to AI. You have to do your own research as well. So you just
Hmm.
gotta know the questions to ask, you know, training it. A lot of people, even just in regular using AI, why does my, response sound so generic? And a lot of people don't understand that you have to train your model all about you. So that's just like the organizations, they're going to have to train the models all about them, all about coding, all about privacy and ethics. So those are the kind of things that, regardless as to if they feel like AI will take their jobs, they need to realize that AI has to have a driver in that driver's seat.
So let me just quote you from your book, because I it's like one of the political messages. I approve this message. Some of that anxiety is rooted in misinformation, and so you took me back to about 20 years ago. I was a director of coding for this virtual team, and everybody was all excited and nervous at the same time that we
Mhm,
were getting this computer assisted coding, and the medical record was going to be fed into the system. It was going to use natural language processing to provide some recommendations for the code, right? And
mhm.
so the company that I was working for, they said, well, we're not going to need as many coders. And so I was like, whoa, let's do some evaluation of how this whole system works. So what wound up happening, and we did a test of radiology, for example. We figured
Mhm,
something simple. So
mhm,
the medical record was being fed into the system,
mhm.
and the codes were being spit out, and then we had coders actually review the record, and then we said, okay, here is what the tool said. And time again, the coder was like, oh well, it's a good start, but
Mhm.
we need to add X, Y, and Z. So that was 20 years ago, and we're still doing that today, which is proof that we're still needed, but the
Right.
capacity in what we're needed in is going to be different. And that's where we have to have that shift in that mindset and not be so fixed in what we're
Correct.
doing today. I hear
Correct.
so many coders who say, oh, they want to use the software and they want me to be the checker. When the codes come up, I just click, done. I don't even look at anything. Hello.
Mhm.
Your name is on the account as the person who did the review. So now
Absolutely.
you can't blame it. You can't blame it on the
Right. Right.
technology.
You
You
cannot.
yeah. So I like that you kind of help us understand that some of this anxiety is about misinformation. Um, and so I think that's important for us to really understand because now first let me just be real. There will be some job loss, right? You can't totally prevent that. It's like when we went from paper to electronic records. We used to go in the
Yes.
store and get the medical records. But the folks who remained sustainable in the profession were
Mhm.
able to pivot, right? And
Right.
weren't fixed.
Right.
Like, oh, I'm the person who analyzes the records and I'm going to do that till I retire. Well, you might still be able to do it, but how you do it changes. And
Right.
are you okay
Right.
with that?
Right. So, and what they need to understand is that there's going to always have to be a person, like you mentioned, that's responsible for validating the output from AI. So somebody still has to be there has to be human factor involved no matter what. Asking specific questions as it pertains to government, or and they're non-technical. That's the thing. A lot of people, I believe, they think it's more IT related, but it's not. But if they start to educate themselves, start with something like a low risk application, or use AI for education, use it for drafting your SOPs, and see, it's still at the end of the day, you're still going to have a human, a person that actually will review those things, review those outcomes, review the data, because they can spill out things. What people need to truly understand is AI is more speed. It's not necessarily for accuracy. It's more speed. It speeds things up. It speeds up these processes. But they'll look at it on the back end, and it won't just be like you're looking at things from top to bottom just from scratch. You already have it right there in your hand. And I love AI. I'm
I'm
sorry,
here
I
for it.
love it. I am here
Listen,
for it all.
listen. I just gave somebody an example of
Mhm.
how AI is a tool, but you still have to do your due diligence. So
Correct.
I created these motivational cards, like a card deck, right? And
Mhm.
so the design is done, the card itself is done. So now I'm at the
Mhm.
next step where I have to get to print it. And so I went into ChatGPT and said, I need to print XYZ card deck. And the technology knew what card deck I was talking about.
Yes.
And so I said, give me 20, identify 20 vendors that could potentially print this for me, right? So it gave me the 20 vendors. Now, the next step was to have my virtual assistant
Mhm.
go to each website, um, pull down some information regarding pricing because I wanted a human to lay eyeballs
Mhm.
on the websites, right? And
Yes.
then so that when she sends the top 5 to me, I'm going to lay my eyeballs on them and make a decision. Number one, which one is going to show up at my door because I don't want it to be stuck somewhere in the middle of the
Mhm.
ocean, right? So
Mhm.
but it sped up the process of finding that vendor, whereas before you can put it in as a search term and then you got to get the website. It
Yes.
literally gave me the website. But then it also said, as you explore these vendors, these are some questions you want to ask the vendor before placing your order, making
Yes.
sure that they can meet your specifications. And it tells me stuff that I wouldn't
Yes.
even thought
That you
about.
thought of. Yes. It will provide you the knowledge of things that you would not have ever thought of. I totally agree. You should do step 1, step 2, step 3, because I get it all the time when I'm in AI and working on some things. It will blow your mind. It will take you all around the world and you go, "Wow, I did not know that." So
Mm.
it is a useful tool. I just hope people can get out of that fear of AI and, just kind of realize that it's more of a help, and the knowledge of the AI is actually the antidote to the fear.
Yes, yes. And I always say with any software, trust but verify. And even at the bottom
Yes.
of Chat GPT, it tells you that Chat GPT can make some mistakes. I
Mhm.
even used it to test some E&M coding,
Mhm.
and it spit out some stuff. And first thing it said was like history, exam, and medical decision making. So I typed back, no, 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 that is no longer valid. And then it said, thank you for that. You are correct as of
Mhm.
2021, blah, 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 right? But
Mhm.
even after that correction that I made with it, as it relates to the new rules, I'm still challenging it by saying, you told me that this was the code. However,
Mhm.
according to the official rules. So you're training it, but it's still
Yes.
going to make mistakes.
It's going to make mistakes, correct, which is why the individual has to go back and perform your due diligence and review what it's outputting. So, yes, I agree.
Yes. So one of the things that was in your form that you completed for the show, I kind of chuckled about this, but you said, this book was written for professionals. many of them women 40 and over.
Yep.
And I think back to the transition from ICD-9 to ICD-10, where everybody was like, I can't do that new system. I'm going to
Yes.
retire. And
Yes.
we realized, oh, it really wasn't that bad. So,
Yes.
same thing. Some people going to retire because they just want to retire.
Correct.
And there are many of us who are in our 50s. I'm like, hey, bring it on because I
Bring
want
it
to keep
on.
my mind
Yes.
sharp. I
Yes.
want to see all of this. I think back to being a kid watching the cartoon, The Jetsons. Do you remember that cartoon?
Yes. Flying in
So
space.
yes, and funny
Yes.
thing, that cartoon came out in the 60s and then it was rebroadcast in the 70s and 80s, but it gave us the future we couldn't imagine.
Right.
And we are experiencing a lot of those things right
We are.
now, and I
We
am
are.
here for it all. Now,
Yes.
not this truth be told, I don't want a car driving me with nobody in the
I
driver's.
don't want that either, and I don't wanna be in the air either.
Absolutely. And you know what's something funny? This over the last week, two of those little robots have ran into bus sheds here in Chicago. So
Wow.
can you
Wow.
imagine a car driving? It's just a little thing that's delivering some food.
Oh, is that the little Waymo thing? Yeah, we got that in Atlanta.
Yes,
I don't trust
yes.
that's
Yeah. So
taking it a little bit far, but hey, we never know what may happen.
you know what? You never know. And something I'm thinking about, what I would hope the technology will be able to do, maybe you have somebody who can't drive themselves to the hospital,
Correct.
but this car can come pick them up. I
Right.
mean, so but they got to figure out how to get it right because right
Correct.
now is bumping into stuff.
Right. But I
So
think they should realize they are still essential.
yes,
I
yes.
believe.
So we're almost out of time. And I want to kind of wrap up on
Mhm.
this other area that you talk about, um, how readers don't need to have a tech background to start, and how the book includes this structured 30-day plan. Tell us about that plan.
So the 30-day plan was thought of to give the HIM professionals a sense of development. It's like a personal development so they can go step by step learning AI on their own. Now, one thing I do want to point out to make sure that everybody understands, do not put any PHI in these AI unless it's approved by your organization and it's locked down and they've given you the authority to utilize PHI in those AI systems. Otherwise, never, ever, ever. We must still maintain compliance. We have to. So with that 30-day, it was just really to give them guidance. Let people understand for those that are not already tapped into AI, to teach them not to be afraid and start learning. Because if they take a little at a time, week by week, just mapping out steps of what to do next. Now they can put some hypotheticals in there, but it does not have to have PHI information. So what they can do with that plan is just start to, start out just reading AI first, learning it just little by little. The simplest task, just define something in your own words. But again, like I told you from the beginning, you have to train the model to know you, to speak like you, to learn everything about you. And a lot of people are afraid to put that information in the AI. But there are some settings that a lot of people may not be aware of that you can turn on and off, and you can turn it off where it does not train other models, meaning other people's AI, or let's just say, for example, Chat GPT. So your information is not just floating out there everywhere. So you can turn that data setting off. And then you train Chat GPT about you, how you speak, how you talk, um, your personal information, not details, not socials and stuff like that now, but just your name and your background so it can learn you. So you'll start out with that, and then understanding that it's not a lot of technology as people think. Now, there are some technology components, and that's for all those IT people who likes to get down into the weeds of things. Um, and so each week it just bridges on more and more. and expanding the knowledge of that HIM professional so they can learn it and not be afraid to use it. And you can articulate how AI connects to your specific role, to the coder, to the HIMT, to the privacy officer, to the release of information specialist. What it looks like in your environment. Where's that data or that information is pulled from. And so you just set goals for yourself. This was just like a little miniature learning plan for them on how they plan to develop themselves over the next 30 days, or even come up with their own plan for the next 12 months. Because AI is not going anywhere. It's
It's
not.
not. It's not. And let me tell you what I told somebody probably about 6 months ago.
Mhm,
Okay, and they are in healthcare because fortunately or unfortunately, most of the people in my circle are in healthcare.
mhm,
But I said, all right, you don't trust it. I'm not going to convince you to try to pay the $20 a month like I do.
mhm, mhm.
But start with something that is completely away from healthcare, like
Yeah,
with recipes. And so
correct.
I have, a dish that I make, and one day I was out of
Mhm.
something and I was like, hey, ChatGPT, I'm going to make this, but I don't have this ingredient. Can I use that ingredient?
Yep.
And it will spit out. You can, but you want to make adjustments here or there.
Mhm,
Seconds,
mhm.
seconds.
Right. You can actually take a picture of items in your refrigerator and say, "Hey, give me a recipe." But I use it all the time for juicing recipes. I ask for juicing recipes. You can tailor it to say, I suffer from, let's say for a person that's diabetic, you can let it know that I'm a diabetic. I want to keep my blood sugar under control. Give me some, provide me with some juicing recipes that will assist with my diabetes, with inflammation, with just any of those chronic conditions that you have, and it will tailor it just specifically to that versus you going in the library looking for a book or you buying a book online. Now you don't have to even do that anymore. You can just look, go to Chat GPT, but my personal favorite is Claude.
Oh, so my friend Dr. Renita, she loves Claude, but y'all paying like $100 a month for Claude.
Oh, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. Claude is
Oh,
$20.
oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna have to give me a Claude account. Because listen,
Yeah,
I'm
Claude
on.
is just like Chat GPT. I don't know. Now maybe they got something different, but no, I'm not going
Oh
that
yeah,
far.
she got whatever she got. It's just like her best friend. But I
Oh
am
yeah,
on
it is.
the Copilot,
Oh yeah.
Gemini, Chat
Gemini.
GPT. I'm just
Yeah.
dipping my toe in each one of them, and it has been a
Right.
game changer
Right.
from the perspective of allowing me to reclaim my physical time, but
Yeah.
also my mental time.
Right. Right.
So we are out of time, but I would love two things. Number one, please tell our listening viewing audience where they can find you, and then leave us with some final words of wisdom.
You can find me on LinkedIn in the professional aspect. It's Katrina R. McGhee, and I have the MSHI behind my name. You can also find as a freebie, I can give it to the HIM people. It's a website. It's AI for HIMbook.com. And there's a digital download that's free that has some prompts in there for the HIM people. Um, so some words I would like to just encourage my HIM professionals to just learn as much as you can. Don't feel like AI is going to take your job or AI is taking control. Just go in there and learn as much as you can. Even get to the point where once you've learned something, share that with someone else. Deepen your own knowledge with AI instead of fearing it. Just take it step by step. Use my 30-day plan now. It's in my book. And my book can be found on Amazon.
I love it. I love it. So, listen, everyone, I just finished chatting with Katrina R. McGhee, who is the author of Artificial Intelligence for Health Information Management, a practical guide. I have enjoyed chatting with you today. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed you as well.
And to everyone else, this has been another episode of 52 Authors, 52 Weeks. I'll see you next time.
Hi, everyone. Thank
You've just experienced another conversation from 52 Authors, 52 Weeks, Season 3. The conversation may pause here, but the growth continues. I'm Dr. Lisa L. Campbell, the Growth Motivator, and I'll see you next week.